Good afternoon. Good afternoon. One more time. Good afternoon. In the event that a fire alarm sounds, please stay seated in the auditorium until directed by a Springmore staff member on when and how to exit. Please exit in an orderly fashion. Do not use the elevators, and once outside, go to the red pole. And please, my always earnest appeal to you is take that cell phone and please turn it off or silence it so that you will not interrupt the program once the program begins. I would like to call this meeting of the Springmore Residents Association to order and welcome you to the 8th Residents Association meeting for 2025. It's great to see so many of you here. We've filled this auditorium again, which I'm glad to see. And I hope there's also a large number which are watching on 1341. I would like at this time to ask if there are any new residents who are attending a Residents Association meeting for the first time. If you are, please raise your hand. Any residents attending for the first time? Right here. Joanne's going to bring you a mic. Sandra, if you would identify yourself, what room you're living in or what apartment you're living in, when you moved here, and where you moved from. She's coming right behind you.
We were patient. Hold it close to your mouth.
Okay.
Stand up if you can. If not, you can just do it.
Okay, I think I just said. I'm Sandra Gray. I moved into Creedmoor into apartment 4562 on April 16th, and I still consider myself very new, but I've met a lot of people. Thank y'all for being so welcoming.
There's 2 new people coming in right behind you, Joanne.
Before you sit down, you might.
Charlene and Jackie, if you'll give us your name and your apartment, when you moved here, and where you moved from.
Close to your mouth.
I'm Charlene. We moved here 2 months ago from Traymore, just 2 miles away. And we're in 4572, I think is our number. No, 74. 72.
Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome to Springmore. I didn't see any others, but are there other? Okay. We hope that some new ones are out there in 1341 also watching the program today. I would like at this time to call on Judy Tardif, the chair of the 2026 Nominating Committee, to present the proposed slate of officers for the 2026 Residents Association. Judy?
Sorry, I'll start all over. I'm just a little short. Hi, the first thing I want to do is introduce my nominating committee. When I call your name, stand and then remain standing till everybody's standing up. Sherman Dillard, Julia McCullers, Carol Minna, and Gretchen Reamer. I was close. I want you to know these were a great nominating committee, and we're so happy we got our work done. Thank you. Now it's time to introduce our proposed slate of officers for the 2026 Residents Association Executive Committee. Again, please stand when I call your name. I'm going to start with the directors. Charlene Young, Lou Martin, John Rogers, and Neil McLeod. The nomination for secretary is Peg Simone. Vice president is Dave Gospodarek, and president is Barbara Smith. Thank you. Thank you all for being willing to be nominated. I move that this slate of officers be accepted as members of the Resident Association Executive Committee.
A motion has been made. Are there any nominations from the floor? Since there are no nominations from the floor, in accordance with Section 6.1.2.4 of the Constitution and bylaws, I declare that the proposed slate of officers for the 2026 Residents Association to be duly elected by acclamation. Thank you to the nominating committee, and congratulations to the new officers. Since she is already up here at the podium, I'm going to call Judy again to give us some information about the Employee Appreciation Campaign.
Hi again. Just want to give you a heads up and share with our new residents who may not know that we do this yearly about our Employee Appreciation Project that will officially start on October 14th after the next Residents Association meeting. This project gives residents, us, the opportunity to give our staff a monetary holiday gift. Contributing this fund is a meaningful way to express our gratitude to the dedicated team members who make Springmoor so special. We have approximately 240 full-time staff and 225 part-time staff. That's 465 altogether. So many of these people work behind the scenes, and we have no idea of who they are or what they do. But their work really is what makes Springmoor such a special place to live, and this campaign gives us an opportunity to thank them. The official span is October 14th through November 17th, but you can make contributions anytime during the year, whenever it's convenient for you. On Thursday, December 4th, the holiday gift will be distributed on both the north and the south sides. Employees will be invited to pick up their gift, and all of us will be invited to thank them in person. You'll get more information on that when that's closer. We take the contributions. All of the money received is used for this project. Once we have the final number, half-time staff get half the amount that the full-time staff get. Last year it was $220 for full-time staff, and part-time staff got $110 each. All of the donations are confidential. You'll get more information at the next Residents Association meeting. For now, if you have any questions, the committee our chair is Janet Carter, Alan Page, and I are on it. So feel free to ask us.
Thank you, Judy. Peg Bodini will now come up and give us some information about the Endowment Fund yard sale.
Usually, when I come up to talk to you about the endowment fund, I am delighted with all of the information that I have to give you. But today, it's a little different. Most of you may know that Elevator 4, which is right here, is going to be out of service starting tomorrow for 4 to 6 weeks. That is the only large elevator that has access to the auditorium. And so obviously it is a problem in terms of getting everything here for the yard sale. The decision was made months ago to have it done at this point, And I want to give Brad credit because he tried very hard to get it changed, but the elevator company pretty much said it's either now or almost never. And this elevator has given enough problems that it needs to be done. So after much thought, we have decided to just move the yard sale to October 28th, 29th, and 30th, and in hopes that it will be finished by that time. One kind of advantage for that is that our bingo is on Halloween on October 31st. So I'm looking at the bright side. Actually, all the tables will already be set up, and we won't have to do that. So I apologize if you have a pile of things ready to send to, but just push them aside and hold on to them, and we will send you further information. Elaine Gillespie, who is our yard sale chair, was unable to be here today, and so she asked me to remind all those volunteers, and we have a lot of them, that there won't be a meeting tomorrow. You'll hear more later. So thank you again, and as always, thank you for all you do for the endowment. It is a wonderful service to you and to us.
Thank you, Peg. Before we go into the program section, we've got a full alcove over here. Do all of you have the handout, or are there some of you who don't have it? If there's some of you who are couples, if you don't mind sharing yours with someone, because I know that over that alcove you can't see the screen, so it would be advisable for you to have this with you. So thank you for sharing that with those who don't have one. It is now the time for the program portion of our Residents Association meeting, so I recognize our Vice President, Barbara Smith, to introduce our program.
What a great group. Thank you for being here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve. I would like to say that our meeting next month will be Military Mission in Action, which should be a very interesting, I think the guy that's executive director, Zach Kirsten, he will be here, and he is a veteran himself, but I think it'll be a very interesting program. And then one more in November will be the Cardinal Singers again. But right now, we are going to hear about our budget. This is our semi-annual business meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to Brad Dilday, our executive director, and then he will tell you where we go from there.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Couple of quick housekeeping items before we get rolling with the presentation. As Ms. Smith mentioned, this does serve as our second of our two biannual business meetings, with the first being held in March. I know I saw at least one board member is present here today. So Mr. Baxley is here, and I see Ms. Walton is here too. So we do have a couple representatives from the board, and we also have David Ammons and Brandon Hare from RLA, our management company, are present. So I wanted to make sure to recognize those folks. And also I just want to take a moment and recognize and sincerely thank the Residents Association here at Springmoor. The dedication, thoughtfulness, and consistent efforts that they make play a vital role in keeping this community and making it what it is. It's a place where your voices can be heard, concerns can be addressed, and everyone feels connected. The various committees that make up the association are more than just helpful, they're essential. They serve as a bridge between residents and management, helping to ensure clear communication, mutual understanding, and a shared vision for how we continue to grow and improve Springmoor together. The work of these committees doesn't go unnoticed, whether it's organizing, advising, or advocating for the residents. They help make this place a better place to live every day. So on behalf of the entire community, I want to thank those that are involved for their time and energy and commitment. I look forward to continuing this partnership with the newly elected officers for next year and Ms. Smith as the president. So thank you all for what you do. And yeah, they deserve an applause. And now I will pass it on to Dee, and she will provide the highlights of the budget. So Dee Redmond, our controller.
Okay, thank you, Brad, and good afternoon to everyone. I was told that we need to be out of here by 4 o'clock, so I can't stand before you for very long. So I'll be short-winded, even though I love talking to my residents. All right. So I will be presenting to you the 2026 Springmore budget, which we did provide you with a copy of the presentation you will see up above. If you do not have a copy and you wish to have a copy of this, Sarah will be making copies and they will be available in the business office tomorrow. So you can stop by the business office anytime tomorrow and pick them up. Our 2026 budget and review, we will go over the operating budget goals, significant changes from the 2025 to 2026 budget, the total operating reserves, how each dollar is budgeted, Springmore's operating budget summary, and then give you some historical and current rate increase information. Our goals are always, when we present the budget, and I sit down and I do this budget, is to ensure that we are doing this with good stewardship, which means that we are committed to taking care of every single dollar that comes into Springmore, which comes from you, the residents. We also are fiscally responsible, which means that we sit and we perform this budget and ensure that we are meeting the needs of the organization and also meeting the needs of, we try to meet all the needs of all of the residents and do that so we are not overspending, but we are being responsible in nature. Second, we do a detailed review of the revenue sources. That is, we look very closely at all the ways that monies are coming in and then how we are putting them out towards expenses, and then a detailed look at all the expenses as well, to do a comprehensive study and look at how we are spending the monies and look at the best ways so we are just staying in compliance and not overspending. Significant changes from the 2025 to 2026 budget. Operating income will increase by 6.43%. Our utilities, which are lights, water, gas, telephone, cable, all of those are considered utilities, will be increasing by 5.95%. Internal home care will be an increase in revenue of 8.06%. And if you know, home care is also a department, so when the income increases, so does the expense. They increase on that side, but that means that we're able to provide the services to you residents as needed. Food services, there is an overall increase in that department by 8.17%. That is based on the cost of food in our Sodexo contract. Workers' compensation, there is an increase there of 12%. But good thing is that is down from the 31.58% that we saw in 2024. Our retirement fund match is increasing by 6.54%. Reserves is increasing by 9.64%. Our reserves are the major projects, such as the elevator that will be replaced. We also saw this year where we replaced both chillers over in South Village. So there's some major projects that are coming forth in 2026. As many of you know, the building is 40 plus years old, so we are making those changes so that everything can work and the way it's supposed to and make you all happy. And our total personnel and benefits is increasing by 3.2%. We will be in 2026 implementing a cost of living for our employees, just so that we are being more competitive in what we're paying. Keep our good employees here as well, so that they can provide those wonderful services to each one of you. This is our total operating revenue for 2026 in a pie chart. I'll have you look at that, but I want to point out that independent living is 60% of the revenue. Stewart Health Center is 32%. Home care is 3%. And then we have other. So that's just for you to see in a pie chart view of where the revenue is coming from. How each dollar is budgeted. This is a list of each one of our departments. Stewart Health Center and dining services does take up the bulk of the dollar at 20 cents out of the dollar. Then you have your reserves, your operating, your general operating, housekeeping, buildings, and so forth. But this is, if you look at where each dollar is going, this is a great breakout for you to actually be able to look at in very simplistic terms. Here are some historical and current increases. I know I heard the groan. I'm sorry. This year, we have decided to do an across-the-board increase for Independent and Stewart Health Center at 5.85%, and that is to be able to meet the needs of the organization. So when you're looking at the operating budget, our income for 2026, that's not $39,669,000. That's millions. Okay. That's what we have as income, and then you'll look at the expenses there, salaries and benefits, the total reserves, our food and Sodexo contract, our total utilities, other items in the budget. So our total operating expenses are $39,526,000, which leaves us with an excess income of $143,000. And that is it for me. Does anyone have any questions? Again, if you need a copy of this printout, please stop by the business office tomorrow to see Sarah. If you have a question and you didn't feel like raising your hand today, you can email me, you can call me, you can stop by the business office, and I will be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dee, for that presentation. Hopefully some of that makes sense for you all, and it's a little bit more clarity on how we prepared the budget. There is obviously a lot of work that goes into that, and we start off in May, basically, working with the department heads and letting them do their wage files. And then we meet independently with each department. They go through and we assess all of their line items and their expenses for the year. Once we kind of nail that down, then we present it to the MAC. They give us their recommendations after they've met with department heads. Then we go and meet with RLA and get the approval of our management company. And finally, we take it to the board of directors and get their approval. So it's quite an extensive process and time consuming, but I feel like we do our best to try to keep it as concise and as efficient as we can for you all, because I know that 5.85% is real money, and it does count, and so we try to make everything as close as we can to being just break even and not trying to make this a burden for you all. But at this point, I'll move to the fun stuff, which is the questions that were submitted to the MAC. We had about 10 questions or 10 individuals that submitted questions. Some of them are maybe 2 or 3 questions within a question, but I'll run through the ones that I'm going to answer here. I took about half. I've got Jessica Pagan is going to answer a few, and then Mr. Hare will grace us with his presence to answer one as well. So I'll go ahead and get started on these. And so the first 3 questions I'm going to just group together because they're all on the same topic. So I'll read them, read all 3 questions, and then kind of give a synopsis at the end of those 3. So the first one says, I have a question about the meal credit of $170 per month for those of us on the reduced plan. When I started on the plan, the allowance paid for 10.06 meals per month. Last year, it paid for 8.97 meals, and next year it will be 8.5. If we were intended to have enough to pay for 10 meals, then the monthly credit this year should be $200 by my calculation. All right. The second one says, thank you for considering this. Since the cost of an individual meal is increasing, why would the allowance for the reduced meal plan not increase proportionally as well? To my knowledge, the reduced meal plan allowance has not increased since its inception. And the final one along the same lines, this is the third year that the reduced meal plan is $170. Why doesn't that increase since everything else does? So 3 questions basically along the same lines. We have capped that reduced meal plan at $170 of a credit. The intent was never to cover 10 meals per se. The original reduced meal plan rate credited residents $140, and it increased proportionally the following 2 years, and that first year was 2021. So the $140 was derived by estimating raw food costs, labor, utilities, and all the other aspects that go into the cost of a meal. It wasn't necessarily, we're going to reduce it by 10 meals. We just tried to give an option that was going to reduce the expense. So we capped that reduced meal plan credit last year for the first time, and we elected to do so again this year because we want to try to prevent that revenue gap from increasing. I think the reduced meal plan is a great option, and I know that there are a lot of active folks that still want to prepare their own meals, or you still like to go out to dinner and that kind of thing. However, the financial impact of having just under 250 people on the reduced meal plan will be around $500,000 next year. So $500,000 in revenue that is lost by people electing to take that reduced meal plan. So there's no way that we can make that much of a revenue loss up in savings from raw food costs, because we can save a little, but it's not going to be enough to close that gap. We still have to staff the same every night. We still have to wash dishes. We still have to have the utility guys in the back. We still have to prepare as if we were going to have almost everyone eating. So the gap of $500,000 is really hard to come up with, and that's why we've elected to keep that reduced meal plan at $170 credit. I know that some wish that that could go up, but in order for us to try to reduce some of the other expenses, we just had to leave that where it was. So if you have further questions on that, I'll be happy to go into it with anyone. Feel free to call me or email me, and we can discuss it. The next question. Is there a capital budget separate from the one that we received? If not, in what line are capital items listed, and what are the items in the 2026 capital budget? There is a capital expenditure list that we keep, but it was not included in the information you were given. All of the capital expenses are in the reserves section of the budget that you were presented, so you can see how much we allocated towards that. But I'll give you a quick rundown, kind of the top capital items that we did include in the 2026 budget. We will be doing 2 elevators over at the Creedmoor building, so both elevator 13 and 14 will be replaced. We've actually gone ahead and ordered those because, as we learned with elevator 4 here, it is what they estimated originally as a 8-week wait period has now grown to a 12 to 16-week wait period to get a new elevator. So we've gone ahead, we're ordering those so that they can be here in January and be ready to install at the first of the year. We are also going to begin the budgeting for 2 new chillers in North Village. So our 2 largest chillers, D1 and D2, are going to be replaced in 2027, but given that massive expense of those 2, we're going to go ahead and start paying for those in 2026. We also have several paving projects on the north side of campus that we will do next year. We have several health center renovation items that are not in the scope of the loan. It's like furniture, some of the low voltage, the nurse call system, some of those things aren't in the scope of the loan, so we pay for those from reserves. And then we also have budgeted for another vehicle for transportation next year to replace one of the flexes. A second part of that question was, can you tell us the 2026 cost of a guest meal ticket and an employee meal ticket, and what is the tax rate? So the guest meal ticket will be $25, and the staff meal tickets for when the staff goes and purchases a meal is $5.05. And the tax rate, that is 8.25%, and that is based on Wake County sales tax and Wake County food tax that we have to pay. All right. My next question. This is kind of a statement, but then there is a question at the end, but I'll just read the majority of it here. The jump to 5.85% for independent living residents is going to present a hardship on those of us who are on fixed incomes from years ago that is not going to grow and hasn't been growing along with the economy. Also, along with our advancing age, our medical bills, and rising in higher numbers as we need more help with illness or medical conditions due to mobility. Trying to pay for a spouse in the Stewart Health Center plus rent on an independent unit is a huge drain on a person in independent living. The question is, can a resident live without being able to pay medical expenses, getting basic necessities, moving to the smallest place they can find, or just worrying about the smallest of things that they can't afford anymore? And I mean, that's a valid question, and it is expensive if you're having to live and pay for the health center and an independent living unit. But everyone that has moved in here was approved by the Financial Review Committee, so we feel comfortable with your financial standing when you move in. And I understand many income sources do not grow. However, there are some that may grow. Social Security gets an increase every year, that kind of thing. But I would also say that while you may have to downsize or look at cost-saving options, that is also why the endowment fund exists, and that is why you all moved here. Should you come across those hardships, that's what Springmore is here for, and that's why we give to the endowment fund, to be able to help people in that situation. All right, this is my last question, and then I'll pass it off to Jessica. Over the past 4 years, fee increases have averaged 5.8%, which means fees double every 12 or 13 years if changes aren't made. What can Springmore and the residents in collaboration do to mitigate these increases? First of all, there's a few large-scale items I would point out, and I hate to hammer on it again, but the reduced meal plan and people electing to use that has created a huge revenue gap, and so I think fewer people using the reduced meal plan would be a part of that. Also, the endowment fund, that they pay subsidies only through the interest and dividends that the endowment fund earns, so that typically only covers around half of the total expense of the endowment fund, so the subsidies, and that's around $225,000 give or take in a year. So the other $225,000 is coming straight out of the operating budget. So the larger the endowment fund, the less that we have to cover from the operating budget, and that can offset some of the rate increase as well. There's also a few kind of smaller items, but things that can help save, that identified as returning those Ozzy, the green containers that you've got in the dining room. I spoke with Ashley, and I think when we first implemented that program, we were getting a great rate of return, and the longer it's been in existence, the less we're getting those returned. And as she's seeing that decline, we're having to order more, or we're having to replace with paper products and go through that kind of material a little bit more frequently than we used to. So just a simple thing is returning those green containers can save us a lot of money in the long run. We also I'm reevaluating the temperature settings in all of the common spaces. I know that everyone doesn't always like 74 degrees or whatever the temperature may be, but if we can keep those at a reasonable climate, and that'll help kind of save on some of the energy bill. That, along with fireplace usage, when it's 80 degrees outside and we got the fireplace burning, save us on propane, leaving doors open, windows open, simple things like that you can do like you would do in your home to kind of save on some energy expenses. Dee pointed out the increase in workers' comp insurance, and it was 34% last year. It's 12% increase this year. So helping to promote a safe workplace can go a long way towards reducing expenses. I think if you see staff and recognize them doing something you feel may be unsafe, point that out to them in the moment, point that out to me, because the less we have staff at risk and safer we are, we can help save a lot of money from that aspect. And then also promoting our external home care service to your friends or your neighbors in the community, out in the community. That could be a great additional revenue source for Springmore, and so that too could help offset some of the rate increases. That's all I got for y'all. I'm going to pass it off to Jessica, let her answer 3 or 4 questions, and then again, Brandon will finish us out. So thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I have about 5 questions here that I'd like to answer for you. The first one is there a way for resident meal balances to appear on the receipt received at the grill or bistro? And that's something actually today we were able to get an answer for, that yes, resident meal balances can now be obtained at both the grill and bistro upon request. If you'd like to see your balance, just simply ask the grill attendant and it will be printed on a separate receipt. There will not be a name printed on the receipt, but the information will be printed there. This is something that's very new, and the dining team is currently training all the grill attendants on this new process to make it more consistent. But just remember in the meantime that you can always scan your badge at the post office at your convenience and obtain those balances as you'd like. The second question first starts off with a statement, and the question will be at the end. A few years ago, several residents submitted a proposal regarding the current arrangement we have for individual phone service and internet service. We proposed a bulk arrangement with Spectrum or others to ease the financial burden our residents incur with individual billing. We mentioned that Spectrum, as such an arrangement with a similar facility in Florida, costing those residents less than half our charges. Part of the dismissal of our suggestion was the fact that not all residents were currently using the full service. Given that we now have Google Fiber aggressively expanding service all around us, the options are becoming much wider. Given that each incoming resident is more tech savvy and dependent than the population in the past, these issues should be reconsidered. Therefore, the question is, what is being planned, in process, or the current position of management related to internet service? As technology needs continue to grow, especially with new residents who are more dependent upon the internet in our community, we want to ensure that we have access to connecting those services. We absolutely understand and recognize the importance of reviewing our options and continuously reviewing our options. Our phone system is managed separate from our internet service with a company called Segra. There's currently plans underway, and it's in process to begin the work on updating that system this year, so it'll be occurring later this year. For the internet service, access points are currently being installed in North and South Village to provide Wi-Fi directly to the apartments. We're currently in process of finalizing the fee structure. We anticipate being able to announce and make this a service available to residents in North and South Village apartments by the end of the year. Additionally, we're working with Spectrum to establish a bulk rate specifically for the houses and villas. At this time, we're still within the final year of our existing 3-year bulk cable contract with Spectrum. As these efforts move forward, our goal is to balance improved access, affordability, while continuing to provide reliable service to the entire community. So we're excited to be able to announce that that is under works, and we're hopeful that you'll have more information this year. The third question is, many nights when I come back to Springmore in South Village, there are no lights on the outside of the main entrance. We need this corrected. More of a statement. But still, our team is consistently evaluating the lighting in our community. We do recognize that the light post at entrance 1 was knocked down. That's in process of getting replaced at South Village, and we're hopeful within the next couple of weeks that light post will be replaced. It's been replaced. So that's the latest. We're still working through replacing all of the lights in the community with the new style lights that shine directly down more so than out, so they're brighter for the residents to be able to see. If you see any issues with any lights, we do encourage you to notify security so that a work request can be put in and we can get those addressed promptly, but we're constantly monitoring those. The next one is more of a statement than a question, but I wanted to acknowledge it as well. Springmore continues to hire non-English speaking staff. It's very difficult to communicate with them. They must speak English. When advertising for open positions, our departments evaluate all qualified candidates for those positions. The managers hire the best candidate available from the applicant pool that we do have. Recognizing that some departments receive more applicants than others, we're constantly looking at ways that we can continue to find the best candidates for our community. We do recognize that language differences can sometimes create communication challenges. Our community is committed to providing resources to help bridge that gap. Tools such as Google Translate are available. We encourage you to reach out to the department supervisor if you'd like assistance with interpreting in specific situations. We're also fortunate to have two residents, Ms. Ella Chaudhry and Mr. Lou Martin, who are generously volunteering to teach English to our primary Spanish-speaking employees. They meet with them in a group basis and also one-on-one. Our Spanish predominantly speaking employees, they want to learn English. They want to work. They want to be a part of our community. And we also want them to work here as well if we're able to give them an opportunity. We understand that this may occasionally be a barrier. We're confident in the dedication and the quality these team members bring to the value of Springmore, and we want to help continue to make this a wonderful place to live and to work for our employees. The last question, why don't we get a good updated white book explaining how Springmore works for us? There's so many wonderful services that newcomers don't know about because they aren't easy to find. Orientation is so hard for the newcomers, and we all need to help them more. More meetings given for them and those of us who want a refresher course would really be helpful. This question really couldn't have come at a better time. As planning is currently underway for a new weekly series beginning later this fall titled Better Together at Springmore. This series will feature speakers from different departments who will share more about their roles and the supportive services that they offer. Once finalized, more information will be available through Pathways. Each session will also be recorded and available to reference at any time through the portal. Additionally, beginning in 2026, we will launch a monthly town hall meeting with different departments being highlighted each month to provide ongoing opportunities for both the newcomers and long-term residents to learn more about the many resources available here at Springmore. We're excited about these initiatives and believe that they'll help strengthen the connections and make important information accessible to all. Okay, I'll pass it to Mr. Hare. Thank you.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Good, so good to see y'all. So many familiar faces and newer faces, so good to be here. I look forward to talking to y'all afterwards. So thanks for having me to come back, and glad Brad gave me a question to answer, and it's a good one. It's about the endowment fund, and endowment fund's always great. That's my favorite committee to always go to because everybody's happy and trying to find ways to help people and coming up with good ideas. And so I want to recognize the endowment committee that I know works so hard every day. So if you're here, anybody, the endowment committee, if you raise your hand just for a second. Great. And Mr. Bill Baxley, who's on our board at Springmore, he also heads he's the president of the Springmore Endowment Fund board, and then he also heads up our investment committee. So he plays a huge part in this. And Mr. Callaway, I don't think, is Mr. Callaway here today? Albert Callaway for a long time did that. So hopefully he's watching at home. Oh, is he back there? Oh, there he is. Okay, hey. All right, so Mr. Callaway, a huge part of this, and I just recognize that because some of these questions pertain to history of the endowment funds. I just want to take a moment to recognize everybody that's played such a huge part in that. Even Mr. Murphy Osborne, I believe, who helped get the whole thing started years ago. So anyway, just wanted to say that I don't get to talk in front of people much anymore, so it's kind of fun to get up and say a few things. But I'll be quick and I'll go on, so we'll get out of here at 4 o'clock. So I have 4 questions that was submitted to answer. The first one pertains to the budget, and the other 3 about the endowment fund. A lot of these have kind of been answered already through Brad and Dee, but I'll reiterate these just quickly. The question is, since inflation, as measured by the Consumer Price Index, is forecasted to decline from 3.2% in 2025 to 2.8% in 2026. What are the major expense increase factors that have produced a percentage increase in monthly fees that is over twice the forecasted inflation for 2026? That's a great question. They've hit on some of these. I'll just kind of reiterate these. I actually was glad that my numbers matched up with Dee's. Normally that's not the case. I'm way off, and she's much more precise. I did change one from 8% to 9%, Dee, so I will admit that. But a lot of the big things that they've talked about already, the reserves going up, we talked about why that is. That's about 9% increase over the inflation. About 5 or 6% over inflation, but 9% for that. Dining, that's always a big one. Raw food's about 4 or 5% increase, so that's more than the CPI. Labor, 3 to 4%. Based on performance. Dee mentioned that. And then insurance. Insurance is a big one. Workers' comp, as we mentioned, 12%. And then employee insurance, which we didn't get to, that averages usually between 5 and 10%. If we can get usually 8 or 10% increase, that's actually pretty good. But if you think about how much insurance is for employees, that is a big cost factor. And I've come to learn that all the communities are kind of the same at this, that each community is unique, but the big things you always look at to try to save money on, that you look at is always going to be raw food, labor, and insurance. Those are the 3 you can really kind of zone in on and try to get the best deals and try to make some movements in areas to try to cut, but also those are always the ones that go up the most as well. So that was that for the budget part. The second one is, how fast annualized growth rate is the corpse of our endowment fund growing from contributions? So the corpse, or the principle of that, when Merrill Lynch took this over almost 10 years ago, it's been over 9 now. The principal is about $6.6 million, and in each year that's grown just from contributions about 2.5% roughly. Contributions make up a smaller part of the increase in the endowment fund. That's mainly through investments, but that's about 2.5% increase each year. The annualized rate of return on investments, and that one's much larger for the endowment fund. Over the almost 10 years that we've had that with Merrill Lynch, that has averaged 7.6% return. So that's been good. I think 7 to 8% is kind of what we kind of shoot for. Interesting. 5-year average was 7%, and the last 3 years average was 11.75%. So the stock market's good, times are good, they kind of go up. So interesting over the years, but over the past 10 years, 7.6%. And then lastly, this is a really good one because I always try to remind everybody, what is the distribution policy for the endowment fund withdrawals? And we've always talked about we use up to 100% of the dividends and appreciation to pay for the subsidies for the current year. So as Brad mentioned in a previous example, if we have $225,000 off of dividends and appreciation, and the subsidy for the whole year is $500,000, we have to use $225,000 from our reserves to make that up. So in an endowment fund, we only use the dividends and the appreciation. We don't touch the principal. So that's why we continue to ask residents to give, because the whole goal would be for the appreciation, the dividends to cover the yearly amounts of subsidy. So that's how our distribution policy works. So Anyway, if you have any other questions about that or anything specific, I'm happy to answer that to the best of my knowledge afterwards. And I know Brad and there's others here that can help with that. So thank y'all for letting me talk for a little bit. It's great to see everybody. And Mr. Bundy, I'll let you end us out. So thank y'all.
Thank you very much, and they will be available to answer your questions afterwards, so feel free to stop by and chat with them before you leave. Let's do some door prizes. All right, red ticket, 026377, 026377, okay? Do it again. Blue ticket with the really small numbers, 1479942. 1479942. That's good. I want to thank again Brad and Dee and Jessica and Brandon for the informative program that they've given to us today. I want to thank each of you for spending your time with us and learning this information that they've been able to give you. We look forward to seeing you at the next meeting, which will be on Monday, October the 13th at 3 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned.